Right now, you're watching this video. You chose to click it, or did you? Maybe the algorithm decided for you. Maybe your brain saw the thumbnail and made the decision before you even showed up. Maybe you're just running on autopilot like you do most days and calling it choice. Here's a question that's going to sit weird in your chest for the rest of this video. What if you've never actually chosen anything in your entire life? Not your breakfast this morning, not your career, not even whether you're going to keep watching this or click away. What if it's all just dominoes falling, one after another, and you're just the story your brain tells itself to make sense of the pattern? Most people don't like thinking about this, because if you don't have free will, then what are you? Let me describe something you've probably felt but never named. You wake up. You know you should exercise. You know you should eat better. You know you should text that person back, or work on that project, or stop scrolling at 2 a.m. You know all of this, and then you just don't. And later you feel bad about it. You call yourself lazy or weak or undisciplined. But here's what's strange. If you really had free will, if you were really in control, wouldn't you just do the things you know you should do? Wouldn't you just choose differently? But you don't. Day after day, you make the same choices you don't want to make. You fall into the same patterns you hate. You promise yourself tomorrow will be different, and then tomorrow comes and it's not. So who's choosing? Because it doesn't feel like you. There was a philosopher who thought about this obsessively. His name was Spinoza. He lived in the 1600s, got kicked out of his religious community for asking too many uncomfortable questions, spent his life grinding lenses for microscopes and thinking about God and freedom. And he came to this conclusion that makes people really uncomfortable. He said, you think you're free because you're aware of your desires but ignorant of the causes that determine them. Let me translate that. You want coffee. You feel like you chose coffee, but you didn't choose to want coffee. That wanting just appeared in you. Maybe because you're tired. Maybe because you're addicted to caffeine. Maybe because your brain chemistry is wired a certain way. You didn't choose any of those things. You just experience the desire and then take credit for it, like you're the author. But you're not the author. You're the narrator trying to make sense of a story that's already written. Okay, but that can't be right, can it? Because you feel like you're making choices all the time. Right now you're choosing to keep watching. You could stop. You have that power. Except, what made you interested in this topic in the first place? Your genetics? Your upbringing? Some random conversation you had 5 years ago that you don't even remember? A string of YouTube videos that slowly shifted your interests in this direction? You didn't choose any of that. And all of that is what brought you here. So even the feeling of choosing right now, even that, might just be the result of a million causes you have no control over. Your brain firing in patterns that were set long before you showed up to claim them. This is where it gets uncomfortable. Scientists have done experiments on this. There's this famous one where they hook people up to brain scanners and ask them to press a button whenever they feel like it. Simple task, press the button, totally up to you when you do it. And what they found is this: the brain starts preparing to press the button several seconds before the person feels like they decided to press it. Several seconds, which means your brain already made the decision before you became aware of it, before the feeling of choosing even showed up. So what does that mean? Are you just a passenger watching your brain do things and then claiming credit for them after the fact? Are you just the PR department for a body that runs on autopilot? Some people find this liberating, like, oh good, I'm not responsible for my failures because I never had control anyway. But most people find it terrifying, because if you're not in control, then what are you? Here's where someone like Sartre would interrupt. Jean-Paul Sartre, French existentialist, looked like he hadn't slept in 40 years, chain-smoked and wrote in cafes, and he would absolutely hate what I just said. He'd say, no, you are radically free. You are condemned to be free. You can't escape choice. Even choosing not to choose is a choice. Every moment you're alive, you're making decisions about who you are. And you can't blame genetics or upbringing or society or your brain chemistry for those decisions. Because even if all of that is true, even if there are causes behind everything, you still have to live like you're free. You still have to act. And in that action, in that necessity to choose, that's where freedom lives. Not in some magical ability to override causation, but in the fact that you can't avoid being the one who has to decide. And honestly, I don't know who's right. Because on one hand, yeah, Spinoza's got a point. I can look at my life and see patterns I didn't choose. I can see how much of who I am was shaped by things outside my control. My family, my culture, my brain. Random accidents and coincidences that pointed me in directions I never consciously picked. I watch myself make the same mistakes over and over, and I think, if I really had free will, wouldn't I stop? But then there are moments where I feel the weight of a decision, where I know I could go left or right and it matters, where I'm standing at a crossroads and it's not obvious which way to go and I have to choose anyway. And in those moments it really feels like I'm the one choosing. Not my brain chemistry, not my past, me, whatever that is. Maybe the problem is we're asking the wrong question. Maybe the question isn't, do we have free will or not? Maybe the question is, what does it mean to live like you do versus living like you don't? Because here's what happens when you believe you have no free will. You start letting yourself off the hook. You stop trying. You say things like, well, I can't help it. That's just how I am. I was raised this way. My brain is wired for anxiety. And all of that might be true, but it also becomes an excuse to stop showing up, to stop fighting, to stop becoming something other than what you've been. And that's a kind of death, a slow, comfortable death where you're technically alive, but you've given up on the idea that you could be different. But here's what happens when you believe you have total free will. You start blaming yourself for everything. Every failure becomes proof you're weak. Every mistake becomes evidence you're not trying hard enough. You carry this crushing weight of responsibility for things that were never fully in your control. And that's exhausting. That's how people burn out. By pretending they're Atlas holding up the sky when really they're just a person trying their best in a world that doesn't give a shit about their intentions. So maybe the truth is somewhere in between. Maybe you don't have total free will, but you have enough. Maybe you can't control what thoughts appear in your head, but you can control which ones you feed. Maybe you can't control what you feel, but you can control what you do with what you feel. Maybe you can't rewrite your past or change your wiring, but you can learn, you can adapt, you can make slightly different choices that compound over time. That's not magic. That's not some cosmic freedom to override the laws of physics, but it's real, and it's enough. Here's what I think Spinoza got right. Most of what you are is not your fault. You didn't choose your genetics. You didn't choose where you were born or to whom or when. You didn't choose the things that shaped you before you were old enough to understand what was happening. And recognizing that should make you gentler with yourself. It should make you realize that maybe you're not failing. Maybe you're just dealing with a harder hand than some people get. And that's not weakness, that's just reality. But here's what I think Sartre got right. Even if all of that is true, you still have to live. And living means choosing, over and over. Small choices that feel like they don't matter until one day you realize they shaped everything. You can't outsource that. You can't wait for the perfect conditions or the perfect version of yourself. You just have to choose, imperfectly, with incomplete information. While tired, while scared. That's the human condition, not total freedom, not total determinism. Just this messy middle space where you're kind of free and kind of trapped, and you'll never fully know which is which. So do you have free will? I don't know, but I know this. If you live like you don't, you disappear. If you live like you do, you suffer. And maybe the answer isn't picking one. Maybe the answer is holding both. Knowing you're shaped by forces you can't control, and choosing anyway. Knowing your choices might be illusions, and choosing anyway. Because what else are you going to do? Right now you're deciding whether to keep watching or click away. Maybe that decision was made before you even realized it. Maybe your brain already chose and you're just along for the ride. Or maybe, just maybe, this is one of those rare moments where you're actually free, and you'll never know for sure, but you still have to choose. So, what are you going to do?